Yeah, I think it's pointed down a little bit, but that's good, right? People like the down. I want to see the console, my battery, my tachometer, my speedometer, my fuel, that thing. So, yeah. Now let's see if I can make it to school today. This is an exciting morning. Not. It's Wednesday. I think it's the 10th of September. So good morning, this is Mike Keeley 7 coming to you from atop the Phoenix 2014 Ultra Classic. Today's topic is September 11th. I'd like to talk about where I was. Oh, look at the deer. Hello, giant deer. Just walking around out there. So where was I on September 11th? I was in Honolulu, Hawaii. Specifically, Pearl City, Hawaii. I had just bought a house with my wife who had been fired from her job by the lady who sold us the house. And the lady knew she was going to fire my wife before she sold it to us. So the $1,600 mortgage per month fell upon my shoulders alone, pretty much, minus some unemployment benefits. So that sucked, but here's how it happened. It's like 4:20 in the morning, and the phone rings, and I'm laying there and I'm thinking, 4:20 in the damn morning. What the hell? Who's calling me? And I realized that on the East Coast it was 5 hours later in the day, you know, so it was like 9 something. And 9 or 10 something, depending on the daylight savings. I can't remember now, but anyway, I had previously received phone calls that early in the morning from my dad, who for some reason could not remember what the hell time it was in Hawaii. And I thought, well, if it's my dad, I'll just call him back. Or if somebody has died, they will still be dead when I wake up in 3 hours. So the phone stopped ringing, went to voicemail, or, you know, answering machine back then. And next thing you know, the phone starts ringing immediately again. So I get up. And I go to the phone and I answer it. It's my brother. And he lives in Hawaii too at this point. And he just says, "Turn on the TV." So I said, "Why?" And then he yelled, "Turn on the TV!" So I ran down the stairs. Hearing the urgency in my brother's voice, I figured, oh shit. So I turned on the TV. And of course what I saw was absolutely horrifying. One of the towers was standing there smoking, and there was a big pillar of smoke where the other tower should be. And it slowly dawned on me that the other tower wasn't there anymore. I told my brother I loved him. We hung up. I immediately started calling people. My mom, my dad, called my boss. I told my parents I loved them because I thought, well, any second now, it could be a nuclear war. And I live right next to the largest military base in the Pacific, Pearl Harbor. Maybe not the largest, but one of the largest. So I thought, well, geez, I could be gone any second now. So I told my parents I loved them. And then I called my boss and I said, I think we should cancel school today because of what happened. And then, of course, she didn't know. I let her go find it. And as I'm sitting there watching this thing and trying to figure out what the hell was going on, all of a sudden, the second tower goes down, right in front of my eyes. And all I could do was utter a shocked and weak little, no. So that went crumbling, and you know, all that whole thing was just, And I found out that 2 of the flights originated in Boston, my hometown. So that was upsetting. And then, of course, I wanted to go immediately to New York City and help. See, I used to be a security guard at a pair of twin towers in Boston. They're called Harbor Towers, 40 stories each, which is nothing compared to the World Trade Center. But I was the concierge / security guard for Tower 2. So when they say, you know, the South Tower, Tower 2 collapsed, it kind of hit home for me, because I had worked in a situation very similar to the World Trade Center one, in that I worked in Twin Towers, and I worked in the South Tower, Tower 2, at Harbor Towers in downtown Boston. So I had a feeling as to what it might have been like to be the front desk guy in that situation. And I know I would have stayed at my post, and I very possibly could have died. So it really hits home, you know, when you're confronted with it like that. And I'll say that I am lucky that I was living in Hawaii at the time, because I couldn't fly home to help out. By the time they even allowed flights, you know, the pile was well established, and you know, the hierarchy and who was doing what, and the fire department was doing the bucket brigade and all that. I couldn't go home and help. But if I had been living in Boston at the time, and I had only moved away from Boston about a year before, so if I had been living in Lynn, working at Salem State College the way I used to, and the moment I heard about the attack, I would have been in the car. And I probably would have been dead right now, because my lungs would not have been able to take the debris that they were breathing in. A lot of those guys are dead now. I'm real asthmatic, so I imagine that it would definitely do me in to be breathing that stuff in that day and those weeks afterwards. So the 9/11 thing really affected me. It hit me right where I live, basically. I lived. So that's where I was on 9/11. Now the next thing. You know, the 9/11 truthers, they have beliefs that run the gamut, and I'll go from the most reasonable to the most insane. The most reasonable is the government was aware that there was a plot to crash planes into buildings, and yet they did nothing. And that's not a conspiracy theory, that's actual truth. Condoleezza Rice did present a report to President Bush saying Osama bin Laden determined to use planes to crash into buildings, or something to that effect. So there's no doubt that the government knew that these plans were in the offing. But it's another thing entirely to ascribe motivation to the lack of action, to say Bush did nothing because he wanted 9/11 to happen. I think that's a completely different thing. We'll never know. Because if it was just Bush saying, no, let's not do anything about it, you never know what's going to know. But you're never going to know what's in his head in the moment he says, let's not do anything about that right now. Or maybe there was some imagined meeting, with Cheney and Bush. Cheney says, don't do anything. We'll never know that stuff. If the conspiracy went any further than the two of them, I think somebody would have blown a whistle by now. Written a book, blown a whistle, something. Okay, so then the next level. The conspiracy is that the government crashed, or let's say the next more reasonable. The government had these so-called terrorists were actually trained by us, paid by us, and did it for us. It's fairly ridiculous if you think about it. Yeah, please commit suicide for us. To help us so we can attack Iraq. It just doesn't make any sense. Next level of crazy. There were no planes on 9/11. That's the next level of crazy. No planes hit any buildings at all on 9/11. There are some people who actually say that. Alright, next level of crazy. There were, actually maybe this one's higher, orbs, round, circular, spherical objects hit the buildings on 9/11. Not airplanes. Or more crazy, the people who are hanging out the windows up on the 100th floor and whatnot, those were dummies. Yeah, they were robotic dummies, programmed to wave like that. And the jumpers, the people who actually fell to their death, those are fakes. Those are dummies thrown out the building windows. There's a lady named Edna Centrone who was seen at the gaping hole standing there waving for help. They say, well, at first it was really her, and then right before the collapse of the towers or whatever, she switched herself out with a mannequin, a dummy, took an elevator safely down the stairs, or downstairs, and then left. People actually believe that. Other videos that I've seen, the smoke that you could see pouring from both buildings was fake. It's pixelated. The planes are pixelated. There are flashes in the video that indicate detonations and missiles. So that's the level of crazy that people have gone to. And a lot of this stuff just, you can't even argue it with people. Like, let's say you go like this, alright, you say that the planes were photoshopped in there in all the videos recorded by everybody. So number one, why don't the people who recorded those videos come forward and say, hey, that's not what I saw? Oh, they were paid not to, or there's a gun to their family's head. Okay. How about the thousands of people who saw what happened and they saw the planes go in, including firefighters who saw the planes go in? Oh, human memory is faulty. So then you say, all right, well, what do you think happened? Well, I think it was a missile. Oh, really? Why? Well, because witnesses said they saw a missile go into the building. Well, I thought you just said that you can't trust human memory. So memory is okay when it serves your point, but when it doesn't, it's stupid? I mean, what the fuck? You say, all right, well, let's say it was the Jewish Zionist whatever things, and they used military jets to crash into these buildings. Robot-controlled military jets. Okay then, what happened to the passengers who died? Oh, they were brought out to Nevada, shot in the back of the head and buried in the hole. Oh, really? And I suppose their DNA was magically brought back to the place and deposited there so that scientists could find it and identify people. This one here. How about if you say that the victims actually were killed elsewhere? If you say that the victims didn't even exist, let's say, for example, then what about the voicemails and the phone calls that they made? Oh, how could they make plane calls? You can't make a cell phone call from a plane. Yes, you can if there are phones in the seat backs. Oh, they had those? Yeah, they had those. I used them. So you're going to say that the people who claim to have talked to a family member that day on the phone or have voicemails on their messages and stuff, those people are lying? Oh, no, they took those, the victims were actually victims, but they were in Nevada with a gun to their head, and they were told to say those things. Uh-huh. It's like trying to argue with a schizophrenic person that, is trying to say to a schizophrenic person that the government is not actually broadcasting stuff into your brain. Well, that's why I'm wearing my tinfoil hat. But they're not really broadcasting things into your brain. Well, what about satellite dishes? They're broadcasting things, and satellite dishes can pick them up. My head can pick them up too. I mean, you just can't argue with people. Stupid. All right, folks. This is my Kaylee 7. I'll talk to you later. God bless America, I swear. If you're one of those people that says there were no planes, and that the victims weren't really victims, and that they're hiding out somewhere or whatever, just fucking shoot yourself. Put us out of your misery, please. Ugh.